Just a reminder, if you're reading from written comments, please give me a copy when you're done. Clary Frank. Clary Frank?
Hi, my name is Clary Frank. I'm with Frack Action. I live in Ulster Park, New York. I am completely opposed to fracking as a means of capturing natural gas. I acknowledge that we need to produce energy because we are energy consumers, and local energy is a great way to go, but destroying our air, our water, and our communities is not the way to do it. The cost of fracking will be too much for New York to afford. I want to have confidence that the DEC is protecting us, but reading through the SGEIS, I have no reason to believe that fracking in New York will be any bit less destructive than it's already been in the 30-plus states it's happening in across the country. Not only does the SGEIS offer very little actual regulation of the fracking process, but the DEC is too understaffed to actually do the regulating. A basic issue that I have with the SGEIS is that it does not adequately address the negative impacts associated with fracking for our health, our environment, and our economy. If it fully looked at these components, it would be a net negative process for the state. The gas industry can't even frack profitably without disregarding our nation's most basic environmental regulations, such as the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Acts. We deserve to know exactly what is being put into our water, and if everyone knew clearly what was being used in fracking fluids, I believe there would be outrage at the toxic chemicals, the heavy metals, and the carcinogens that no person should ever come into contact with. Fracking in New York will drastically lower home values. It will hurt the industries such as agriculture and tourism. It will put people's health at risk and much more, but these are not considered in the economic analysis of fracking. The number of truck trips alone required for fracking will change the nature of small towns across the state. The DEC does not propose to regulate this type of fracking, which will leave a heavy tax burden on local communities, nor does it address the toxins that will be added to our air, further increasing asthma rates, cancer rates, and other serious health issues. All of this and so many more issues that have been discussed today, and we won't even get to keep this natural gas. It won't lower our dependence on foreign oil or lower the costs for us. So as the Department of Environmental Conservation, you should be moving us towards a clean energy future, not allowing a process that will turn New York into a toxic industrial zone. Don't allow fracking to move forward. The people of New York want a ban.
Barbara Beal.
My name is Barbara Beal. I'm the Director of Natural Resource Services for the Chains and Companies, and I'm a certified professional wetland scientist. I am in favor of high-volume hydraulic fracturing. I believe that it can occur in a manner that protects the public health and welfare and the environment. This industry has the ability to bring jobs to New York State and to develop a clean source of energy for our state. This is a proven technology that has been used in New York State since the early and mid-1800s. The SGEIS and regulations are comprehensive in minimizing appropriately the risk. The Chains and Companies will be submitting substantive written comments on the SGEIS and the general permit, but we have a few comments right now. One is that the general permit requires stormwater sampling and visual classification from all well site outfalls within 60 minutes of a qualifying storm event. Remote sampling can be done during production phases, but the visual inspections of the discharge will be impossible due to the remote and unmanned nature of these sites. We believe that a more appropriate method would be to require a quarterly visual inspection of the infrastructure to document the condition of the infrastructure at the production sites. Stormwater sampling is also being required in the construction phase. This is not a requirement of any other type of land development in New York State, and all of which involve similar activities, clearing of land, movement of dirt, those sorts of things, and don't use chemicals. So why is high-volume hydraulic fracturing being treated differently than other land development activities in New York State? The SGEIS also should provide additional details on how there will be coordination between overlapping regulatory jurisdictions involved in the permitting of facilities associated with HVHF, including the Public Service Commission, the Corps of Engineers, and the New York State DEC. And the DEC should also provide additional electronic GIS data on set-aside areas and endangered species areas so that the lease positions can be reviewed against those set-aside areas. I'm also concerned that the regulations, and more so the financing that's being requested by the various state agencies, will cause Marcellus shale producers to go to other states that are more business-friendly than New York State. Finally, in an article titled "Spin Overtaking Facts in Marcellus Shale Debate," Professor Baruch Freiasch, a professor who studies risk management and decision-making at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, said, "I think what's happened with many of these controversies is that the issues have been framed as, is there a problem or not, versus what kind of gambles do we want to take?" He notes that the stakes are high, including a tremendous amount of money, environmental issues, and national energy issues associated with this. But there are also solutions to these controversial issues. He says, "There's a deal to be cut that would benefit all sides, but we cannot reach it because the distrust is so deep." This
Ma'am, your
can't
time
be
is up.
good.
If you could submit your comments. Thank you. Thank you. Rosalind Cherry.
Hi, my name is Rosalind Cherry, and I'm going to talk about withdrawing this draft SGEIS and banning fracking in New York State. When examining high-volume, slick-water, horizontal hydraulic fracturing, the risks far outweigh the benefits. This form of drilling must be banned because of the dire consequences to public health, communities, and the environment. Robert Bee, spelled B-E-A, a UC Berkeley professor of engineering, is a former oil rig worker who has studied systems failures and is most familiar with drilling disasters. In an interview last year in Science News, he spoke of quiet failures that we don't know about but can go wrong at any moment. 80% of high consequence accidents are due to human error uncertainties. Professor B also spoke of an Indonesian deep water development 10,000 feet deep. That operator, after 2 years of intense study of the risks involved, did not move forward. The reserve remains underdeveloped today because the technology is not there to prevent failures or to mitigate them. New York State should follow the example of Indonesia to not move forward with a technology that cannot prevent failures or mitigate them. The Independent Oil and Gas Association of New York sent a 30-page letter to Commissioner Martens with their comments about the same draft SGEIS we're talking about here. The letter outlines how their members will be burdened by these unjustified, excessive, and inequitable rules, regulations, requirements, mitigation measures, and permit conditions. How will the DEC handle the gas industry who are asking for less regulation? Since no amount of regulation and oversight will make fracking safe, the only way is to withdraw the draft SGEIS and ban fracking altogether. Sorry about my voice. Other speakers who want the drilling to begin ASAP complain that New York State is acting like business is not open. It's not open for business. We are open for business, just to name a few: tourism, recreation, agriculture, and same-sex weddings.
Ma'am, can I have your comments? Bill Gravy.
My name is Bill Gravy. I'm a dairy farmer in Calico, New York. I've been farming for 35 years. My family bought the farm in 1879. We've paid our taxes every year that we've owned it. To my neighbors and people that live around me that might not agree with me, I do believe that the DEC is capable of coming up with the science and the facts, the true facts, to make gas drilling safe for our economy and everybody that lives here. I have 3 children. all three which want to be back on the farm with me. My two daughters might not work the farm, but my son is dying to come back. The SGEIS is acceptable, except for some of the setbacks are actually too far. We do not need them 4,000 feet from any water source or the setbacks are too far. Let's see. The poverty rate in our county is extremely high. The tourism was dead in the 60s when all the hotels started to close. We keep closing schools and churches because the people keep leaving. Jobs are available in Pennsylvania, they keep going there. I trust that the DEC will come up with the true facts and get this job done. 3.5 years is more than long enough. I have several friends and several nieces that are over in the Middle East protecting our country. They didn't get 3.5 years of discussion. They just had to go. Thank you.
Sandra Kissam.
My name is Sandra Kissam, and I'm the president of an organization in Orange County that was responsible for leading the fight to save 7,000 acres of open space adjacent to Stewart Airport. It's called Stewart State Forest. In 2009, our organization agreed that fracking was going to be a threat to open space. Why should that matter? Let me point out to all of you, we have recently had some very disastrous weather events. We have recently had spikes in the CO2 in our atmosphere. And one of the ways in which we can work to prevent these weather disasters and other events which have yet to visit us is to preserve farmlands, open space, and other areas in a reasonably natural form. Otherwise, if we industrialize our landscape, we are eventually, doomed. I want to make this clear. We have to think past the immediate future into the longer term. Now, it's true, and I didn't plan to say this, it's true that everyone here is really trying to problem solve. But I am really very saddened by the fact that some of us here have been sold a bill of goods by multinational corporations that do not care about our state, that do not care about our area, and that do not care about our people and our natural resources. And they are using the power of Madison Avenue and the power of their international dollars to work us over. Specifically, and I want to make this point just very briefly because I will be putting in comments. The EIS is not protective of our public state lands. They claim to be, but they are not. I've carefully read the document, and others have as well, and there are numerous loopholes that would allow fracking to occur under state lands and also would allow many of these destructive infrastructure projects, such as compressor stations, pipelines, seismic testing, and various other kinds of intrusions to occur on state lands. So the DEIS is not protecting public lands, and I will put in comments that point that out very clearly. I have a couple of newsletters here from our organization, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Ann Gunther.
It's been words. I want to just put one little phrase to music.
Ma'am, can I ask you, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you. Could you face this way so the court reporter can see you? It makes it much better. Thank you.
Thanks. I just want a little music here. High volume, slick water, horizontal hydrofracking. Okay, just a little music. My husband and I spent 2 weeks, 2 summers ago in Pennsylvania. We took it what we call our fracking vacation to talk to people, sort of get the lay of the land, just talk to anybody, DEP officials, truck drivers, whatever. And we came up with a little different scenario of what was going on from what we were getting in the news. And a big factor, I'm just going to hit one of them, was mainly about traffic and transportation. Truck traffic was incredible. We were in an area very similar to that of the part of Marcellus Shale here in New York, beautiful countryside, a tourist area, and oftentimes we'd be on the roads and suddenly look in the rearview mirror and a giant tanker truck is coming down, barreling down on top of us. Very narrow roads. Some roads had been widened, and of course to widen a road means removing trees, shrubbery, and all of this is sort of buffering the noise and water retention, such as we might have with floods. Many of the rural roads now look like major highways. The other thing we noticed, trucks that, the traffic in small towns, for example, even our little town of New Paltz, you get one big truck going through town trying to make a turn. Well, we're talking about hundreds of trucks a day congesting rural areas. People aren't going to be able to move the way we're anticipating moving in these days. It's going to be a huge difference. One large truck, like these tank trucks that carry water, is equivalent to 9,000 cars, and I just did a little computation, car trips. That would mean for in 1 year, 5,157,000,000 extra car trips on our roads and our bridges. Who's going to pay for that infrastructure? Once in a while, a gas company will pay for a bridge replacement, but we're talking about heavy-duty infrastructure replacement. Truck driver we interviewed said, I like having this extra job, but you know what? The company makes me work these long shifts. I'm worried someday this tanker's going to tip over. Who's going to be there to rectify that spill? And in conclusion, I'd just like to say, I'm not against extracting natural gas, but I say to the gas industry, come up with a better way. You got the brightest and the best and the money. Let's have a better way of extracting natural gas than jeopardizing New York State. Thank you.
Dr. Lance Hoffman.
Hello, I'm Dr. Lance Hoffman, scientist, inventor, civil environmental engineer. My doctorate is in environmental engineering, and my concentration is in alternative energy. The permit for hydrofracking should never be allowed. There are far too many facts and reasons to state here as to why the gas oil company should just be told no. A November 2011 article in Roads and Bridges magazine depicts a picture of an iceberg. The caption read below, "What you don't see can sink you." It's almost impossible to see the dangers hidden below the surface. The same is true with hydrofracking. It has clearly been shown and commonly known in European countries that green, renewable, sustainable energy fuels provide at least 3 times more jobs than carbon or nuclear-based fuel sources, which includes natural gas. One can purchase green alternative energy fuel in the current U.S. market for only 13 cents gasoline gallon equivalents. That's the amount of fuel equal to 1 gallon of gasoline. Plus, these green energies are nearly pollution-free. Is the hydrofrac processed methane gas going to cost you less than 13 cents gasoline gallons equivalent to fill up your tank? No. A portion of a 11/6/11 article in Pure Energy Systems News stating how the 5.6 Oklahoma earthquake was caused by hydrofracking reads as follows. All drilling of this nature causes land subsidence. At Oak Hill's Naval Oil Reserve, the hill there was lowered by 73 feet until the oil companies working the deposit pumped back in salt water to restore some of its elevation. In Texas, near Houston, they had to stop any oil removal operations due to salt intrusion as they sank the coast of Texas. This was many years ago. This has been seen everywhere such extraction operations have happened. When the Marcellus Shale is hydrofracted, how much subsidence will occur? How is that figure determined for each well site? And what assurances your distances are correct? I don't see that anywhere in your environmental study. The hydrofracking process leaves toxins, contaminants, and other chemicals underground and adds significantly global warming. As an expert of hazardous waste and toxic chemicals, I do not know of any studies taken into account the synergistic effect of chemicals used in the hydrofracking process. Consequently, no EPA or other regulatory guidelines have been established for the gas company to comply with. I will debate any proponents of hydrofraction and win from an engineering viewpoint, scientifically, factually, or economically as to why the gas industry is wrong in pursuing any aspects dealing with hydrofracking.
Thank you, sir. Sir, can I have your...
Steve Cohen. Hello. Thanks for the opportunity. This is the first one of these I've ever attended. And while my position is that I'm really, really against hydrofracking, I don't plan to present any facts because I'm unable to determine them for myself. I don't have the scientific background to do it, but I do have grandchildren. And I want to use some of my time, though, to talk about the people who are in favor of hydrofracking and to offer my respect. These are perhaps people who have, sold a bill of goods, but so have I. There's propaganda on all the sides. And if I were in a position of my livelihood and my family farms going, that would be fearful. And this seems to be about opinions, not about facts, because the facts that I have chosen to believe are not necessarily the facts. They're just the ones that I accept. And fear-mongering, though, was mentioned earlier, and that seems to be the way it goes. We make our decisions based on fears, and then we find what we call facts. I don't even understand the process with the DEC. If I understand it, Governor Cuomo's the one who's going to make the decision, and if you come up with something he doesn't like, then you have something to fear. But I have something to fear. I fear that our political bodies have become almost wholly owned subsidiaries of the corporations. And I fear that if the hydrofracking goes through, then the pollution gets spread all over, and 25 years from now, some government office will look for the corporations responsible, and it will be found that that corporation was sold to another dummy corporation, which was sold to another dummy corporation, and we'll be talking about whether we should be pulling, I don't know, the energy out of wherever, because we too are responsible as people that we're using too much energy, and that's about it.
Could you call our next group of speakers, please?
Our next group of speakers, 51 through 60. Sue Rosenberg, Jay Wink, Dan Gunther, Joan Walker, Alexander Lines, Truth Muller, Cheryl Karatsky, Mike White, Hericerto Rodriguez, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, Kalika Stern.
Heidi Goggins.
Hello, my name is Heidi Goggins. I'm a farm owner from Delaware County, and thank God my husband has a job, because it's true, farming doesn't pay. One of the things I want to say, because I've been hearing about farms, the same corporations that made family farming unprofitable are the corporations that we're proposing to hand our rural communities over to, who want to do gas drilling. These are not our friends. They don't care about farms. They don't care about you. They care about money. And this is about money. And the very sad effect that money is having on our supposed process of politics. It doesn't seem to be a process. The jobs versus the environment argument is a specious argument designed to divide and conquer, and I lean on the word conquer. If these corporations come into your town, you have no more say in what happens. That's it. They have the power and you don't. I want to know why New York State, I mean, I like jobs. I think everybody should have a job. Why aren't we leading the way in building solar panels? Why aren't we leading the way in building small-scale wind turbines? I stress small scale, not industrial, not owned by some guy who doesn't live here. Why can't I have that on my land and make my own power? Everybody in Europe is doing it. We're falling behind here. Even NYSERDA is now talking about climate change, which is kind of amazing. In the last 6 or 7 years, we have had 4 100-year floods. Fossil fuel addiction is killing us. It's wreaking havoc on the planet. It's going to threaten our survival. So I think we really need to lean on finding an alternative. And the last thing I want to say is, why are we even here? Why are we talking about allowing something that is suicidal? If we don't have water, if we don't have air, if we don't have our soil to farm with, we got nothing. It doesn't matter whether you have a job for the next 5 years. I mean, it matters. Okay, we all need jobs. But what about after the 5 years is up and these guys are gone? Because they're going to come here, they're going to ruin our land, ruin our air, ruin our water, and then they're going to move back to Texas, Oklahoma, wherever the hell they come from. China, thank you. And most of this gas is going to go overseas to be sold to the highest bidder. So all the people who talk about energy independence, that's bullshit, excuse my language. The fact that we have to come here to fight Exxon, Shell, Chesapeake is an indication of how low our level of democracy has fallen.
Rosenberg.
That was some act to follow.
100%! Everyone together in our democracy, we are the 100%.
Can we please let our next speaker begin?
Thank you. My name is Sue Rosenberg. I'm from Ulster County. I've submitted my own comments to the DEC, but I'm here at this moment to share with you comments of an Ulster County legislator, Don Gregoris, who couldn't be here today and wanted to share these words with you. I am an Ulster County legislator who takes my duties seriously. I am proactive on issues that impact my district, county, state, and country. I am about to start my 4th term in office. In service to the community, there has been and continues to be an overriding priority in my concerns for the safety, health, and welfare of the public. I am sure you are aware of the many different issues all legislative bodies are confronted with. We are no different. However, in my opinion, hydrofracking places an unacceptable and serious risk to the public that may create a contamination issue in our water that will be impossible to reverse. You will undoubtedly hear from speakers who point out serious flaws in the current proposed process. You will also hear from people who believe that hydrofracking is safe and will create a revenue stream to local and state coffers. I am concerned that there is a serious potential threat to our health, and it will be irreversible. There are many articles that indicate there are reasons to be concerned. The New York Times is just one that produced a series that must be addressed. There are other tangential issues that also concern me. The exemption of the oil and gas industry from EPA standards is particularly offensive. I've read reports and viewed film clips about the supposed safety of hydraulic fracturing in Pennsylvania. This would make anyone irate and certainly create a call to action if it happened in their locale. We have been told that it was safe to drill for oil in the Gulf of Mexico. Hopefully, we won't hear the same people tell us that hydraulic fracturing is safe. Additionally, it is egregious that New York City and Syracuse will be exempt from hydrofracking in their watersheds. The rationale, I understand, is that construction surrounding projects in those areas would be so significant that it would compromise the quality of their water. In my opinion, this is ridiculous and a clear subterfuge to protect large groups of people while experimenting on the rest of us. After the comment period is concluded, you will have heard from many people with different points of view, interests, agendas, and motives. I ask you and anyone else involved in the decision-making process, what would you say to parents, children, family members, neighbors, and the general public if a health pandemic from tainted water occurs?
Thank you. Jay Wang. Jay Wang.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jay Wink from Woodstock. I too fought Nazi fascism in Europe during World War II and to defend this country before most everybody in this building was born, and I continue to do that. I'm not happy about the circumstances here this afternoon. Calling elected officials to speak before the people who pay our salaries can speak is undemocratic, a symptom of what is wrong in our country, including this meeting. You represent a regulatory agency that is not mandated to protect the public, but to mitigate environmental damage for the financial benefits of the corporations and interests that will create the damage for their own profit. This is supposedly a home rule state, but you know as well as I do that no town or municipality can say no to your agency's decisions and make it stick. The plan to protect the watersheds of two large cities gives the lie to the idea that fracking can be done safely everywhere else. So I'm faced with an unpleasant quandary. Do I come here to speak with a group that is chartered to resist efforts by the people to protect our environment, or do I boycott? I've chosen to ask you to disavow your mandate, that you understand there is no safety for humans and our earth, water, and air wherever fracking occurs, and that the taxpayers cannot yet prevent that hideous activity. I've worked with some progressive friends to write the New York State Public Law Number 1, which removes the activities of fracking from regulatory province and puts them into the criminal code. Moratoriums and bans are easily overturned, but not criminal codes. Putting the law into effect will take time. So between now and then, consider that jobs come and go, profits come and go, resources come and go, commissions and legislators come and go, but that our planet and our future and our progeny cannot be allowed to come and go. In closing, I want to say every one of us here on both sides of this issue are victims of a lousy system of government that pits citizens against each other. Thank you.